Take a moment, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, as I always say. But let's give it a moment to do a quick sound check. Then I'm going to turn this video to public from unlisted. It is 1 a.m. We're good. 1 a.m. Eastern. What that means is I don't have any specific topics. Rather, we're just going to hang out, wait to see who joins. I'm going to chat about Freemasonry. Again, any thoughts you have on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral, I'd love to hear them. Let me just. We have definitely been dealing with some interesting people lately. Some trolls have made their way onto the stream, but that's okay. Not even trolls. Put it this way: some people with some very interesting thoughts have made their way onto our stream lately, but that's okay. Keeps things fun. Keeps things interesting. Here to chat about Freemasonry. As you know, Scrum Company Promotions. The purpose is to promote the ways Freemasonry was and is relevant to the communities in which it's located, as well as share stories of Masonic interest. These streams, however, it's really just to, especially the 1 a.m. streams, it's really just to hang out and discuss. We talked today about, or yesterday technically, historicplaces.ca, a very important register that provides a valuable register and resource regarding heritage buildings throughout Canada, including Masonic buildings throughout Canada. So let's give it a few minutes. Let's wait to see who joins. Let's chat about Freemasonry. Any thoughts you have, please share. Positive, negative, or neutral. I'd love to hear them. Usually my 1 a.m. streams do very well in terms of the number of people. So let's see how it goes. And we'll give it a bit of time. I started this a little bit later than usual. I do 1 p.m. and 1 a.m. streams. Where am I? I'm in my apartment. Do you mean like what city I'm in? Paul Lemons? Um, I'm in Windsor, Ontario. I was born in Winnipeg, but I currently live in Windsor. So, well, Inferno 53, if you're going to make that joke, you should at least hit the like and subscribe button. Paul Lemons, you should also hit the like and subscribe button. Yeah, I'm a proud Windsorite. I love Windsor. In my opinion, it's an incredible city. It's a wonderful city. I'm grateful to live here. I'm grateful to be a resident of Windsor as well as a resident of downtown Windsor. I'm also grateful to be Canadian. I've said it before. I think Freemasons should love and be cheerleaders for the country, communities, cities, areas in which they live. And yeah. So Inferno, I'm hoping you hit that like and subscribe button, and I'm hoping that you're doing well. Please take a moment. Like I said, hit like, hit subscribe. Any thoughts you have on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral? Well, it means so you would be in the States then, Inferno. I'm not sure where in the States, but yeah, I mean, longest undefended border, and it's absolutely the case that when it comes to Canada and the United States, there's a really incredible relationship between the two countries, and it's very possible to travel between the two. I'm lucky because for me, America is literally 30 seconds away, depending on traffic through the tunnel. From me, I can, see it from my house. I could swim there, but I'm sure the border guards would disapprove of that. But yeah, I love visiting my American brethren. I love visiting America. It's an incredible, incredible country. I've always said Canada is the greatest country in the world, which I believe it is. In part, it's because we have the greatest neighbors in the world. Oh, once again, I didn't catch the 6-7 reference before. That's on me. I see you making the 6-7. Potterhead, how's it going? I like Harry Potter. Um, Actually, I say that. I don't really. I've liked what I've seen of it, but I certainly would not be able to like actually respond or like answer any trivia questions. I'm not a Harry Potter expert by any means. It's just I've enjoyed some of the movies. Potterhead, if you keep responding or keep saying that, I'm going to put you in timeout. I don't mind you saying something once, but if you repeat it over and over again, it gets pretty repetitive and boring in the chat. So, um, I'm not one who believes in conspiracy theories as a general rule. I think they're pretty harmful to the way people think. I will say, I did a whole thing about Martin Luther King and his connections to Freemasonry I guess on MLK Day, which would have been January 19th, which is very interesting. His father and grandfather were both Freemasons, and his headquarters was located in the Prince Hall Masonic building. So, um, well, this is a very interesting stream we got happening so far. Pretty much a lot of trolls rocking out, but that's okay. Still hope everybody's doing well. Take a moment, hit the like and subscribe button, and let me know how it's going. If you have any thoughts on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral, roll safe. I'm trying to do this for work, so please consider liking, subscribing, and doing a super chat. Just 99 cents helps me turn my passion for Freemasonry into a profession. I hope that I can create a full-time job taking my content or taking my love of Freemasonry and using that to produce content that discusses the ways Freemasonry was and is relevant to the communities in which it's located. That's a comedian, Wild and Fresh. I once saw a comedian make that joke, and it was very funny. Canadian bacon is delicious. I mean, it's pork, but it's not ham. It's pork. Glenn Rowe, Freemasonry has no political affiliations. Freemasonry is not a political organization. We have like left wing, right wing, and everything in between Freemasons. You don't need to have any political affiliations of any sort to be a Freemason. So, I've been a Freemason for almost 20 years, which is crazy to think it's been that long, since 2007. Before that, I worked in the criminal justice field. I was a probation officer, and then I worked in a jail. So yeah, which is crazy to think it's been 20 years. Let me tell you, time absolutely flies. Well, what you're thinking of is stonemasons, Glenn Eero. Please hit like and subscribe. Stonemasons, I mean, by definition, any structures made of stone or built of stone, whether it be churches, cathedrals, walls, houses, you can even go back and consider, for example, stone tools, was built by stonemasons. That's the profession. Freemasonry is a civic organization or a civic group or club that evolved from stonemason guilds in the Middle Ages. Well, I've never been a preacher. I'm not necessarily religious. I mean, my job for the last 20 years, again, I worked in a jail and I was a probation officer. So yeah. I mean, I consider in some ways myself to be a professional Freemason, or at least I'm trying to be a professional Freemason. Well, the guild is different, right? A guild in many ways is like a trade union, and that, the guild is same as a trade union. The goal is to protect the members, train the members, get the members work, act as like a social benefits for the members. But that's of the guild. Freemasonry is not a guild, it's a civic or organization that evolved from guilds. And their purpose, I mean, their objective, every Mason needs to decide that for himself. For me, the objective of Freemasonry is to try to build better communities or a better world through the application of brotherly love, relief, and truth. Club, group, I mean, call it a group, right? Club, lodge. Again, the end goal, there's no single goal or end goal. Every Mason needs to decide what his goal is to joining Freemasonry, because everybody will have different goals, and that's perfectly fine. There is no single goal, right? Every Mason is his own individual member who has his own individual goals as to why he joined and what he hopes to get from it. Again, for me, the fundamental goal, at least my fundamental goal, is try to build better communities through the application of brotherly love, relief, and truth. David Thompson, I don't know. Every Mason would have to decide for himself, right? Because Freemasonry is not a religion. However, I know many different types of religions believe in Judgment Day. And so I'm sure many different types of Freemasons may believe in Judgment Day or a version of the Judgment Day. I mean, that could be their goal, Ghost and Machine. Not everybody, but many do want to become worshipful master. Many want a sense of community. Many want to develop certain skills like memorization, meeting administration. Some do it to be closer to their family who may have been Freemasons. Some do it for charitable purposes. There really is no single reason to become a Freemason, nor is there a single goal for Freemasonry. Well, Vatu King, welcome back. Please hit like and subscribe. Well, within Freemasonry, they often talk about the three tenets are brotherly love, relief, and truth, right? Brotherly love is, there's a Greek term for, I can't think of what it is, but it's basically the love that in some way should extend to everybody, that we should extend to everybody who, it's different than, say, romantic love or like familial love, right? But it's brotherly love in the sense that you're a member of the lodge, you are my brother, at least metaphorically, and I love you, right? In the same way I love my neighbors, I love my fellow citizens. It's that idea of brotherly love. In Greek, it was called, let me see if I can figure out the term, because was a Greek term. Philadelphia, right? Interesting enough, that's how I thought of Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love, right? So it's just a bond between men. The beautiful thing, and it could be women as well. The beautiful thing about brotherly love in a Masonic sense is that so often in life nowadays, the brotherly love that we have is limited based on, for example, one's religion or politics or a million other things. Freemasonry is one of the few places left where tolerance and brotherly love is meant to extend to people of different religions, different political beliefs, different races, different ages, right? Different all sorts of things, different backgrounds. It's about, again, that brotherly love that is meant to extend beyond narrow limits. Relief, again, you can define relief in a variety of different ways, but for me, in a Masonic sense, I would say relief is best defined as helping to support someone who may be struggling. They could be struggling emotionally, they could be struggling financially, they could be struggling physically, and trying to support them as best you can. Through emotional support, it could be, if needed, benevolence or financial support, just being there for them, visiting them in the hospital, helping their family, relieving their ills and their challenges as much as you can. Camaraderie. Well, Ghost and Machine, you are welcome to leave Freemasonry. There's no rule that says you have to stay. Having said that, I'm not sure why you can't serve two masters. If you have a job and have a boss, then you are serving at your job, your master is your boss. And in your, religious life, maybe your master is a religious deity, right? Having a worshipful master is not the same as, having a religious master. It's a different thing. Yes, Galero Nero, I would. Hello, Curiosity Nudge. Thank you for being here once again. I hope you're doing well. I mean, there's always groups within a group. There are groups within Freemasonry. I'm a member of some of them. I'm not a member of others. Um, when Aristotle said, man is a political animal, what he meant by that is that human beings, it is in our tendency and usually something that we do very often is we will create groups and then groups within the groups and subgroups within the groups. It's in our nature to do those things. So, yeah, I mean, there's within Freemasonry, there's Scottish Rite, there's York Rite, there's Shrine, then there's different groups within those groups. But they're all known, right? I know all the groups. Some I choose to join, some I don't. It's so different than I went to law school, right? When I went to law school, you had, for example, within law school, you had different groups for law students. I mean, some of them were based on certain characteristics, like you had women's law groups, you had Black Law Students Association. Some of them, though, were like people who liked sports got together and formed like, a sports team. It's just human nature. Hello, Stop Clementine. Welcome back. It's good to see you once again. I hope everybody is doing well. I hope you all take a moment, hit the like and subscribe button, and thank you all for being here. We're going to give it a bit more time, wait to see who joins. And yeah, we're just hanging out, chatting about Freemasonry, chatting about whatever. So let's see who we can find. Or let's see, I suppose when you're streaming, really the question is, let's see who finds me more so than anything else. So let's see who finds me. Freemasonry, Thomas Hastings, talking about Freemasonry. These 1 a.m. streams, I don't have any specific topics. I just hang out and, any questions people have about Freemasonry, I do my best to answer them. I've been a Freemason for 20 years, approximately. And yeah, I have a member of 5 Masonic lodges. I'm currently the Worshipful Master of Border Cities Lodge number 554 in Windsor, Ontario. Been a past master of 2 other lodges because I love Freemasonry. I've been a Freemason and I love talking about it. Also, my goal with this channel is to turn my passion for Freemasonry into a profession by creating content and monetizing that content. When you say, oh, it makes me think that you're not a fan of Freemasonry, which is fine. There's no law that says you have to like Freemasonry. Having said that, if you tell me what it is you don't like about it, I can tell you at least my experiences and my views and why I think you are probably incorrect. But let's give it a bit of time. I would say it's not. So David Thompson, I'll get to your question in a second. Thomas Hastings, I would say it's not exclusive. I mean, Freemasonry welcomes men of all different walks of life, religions, politics, ages, ethnicities, first languages, beliefs, etc., etc. Of course, yeah, no, many Masons meet with other members outside of lodges. I mean, why would it not be recommended? We enjoy each other's company, right? Any Masonic lodge that exclusively has or holds events within lodges, and not outside of lodges, is going to eventually find itself really struggling. You need to hold events outside of lodges, whether it be, whether it be bowling nights or going to baseball games or going out to the pub or chili cook-offs or barbecues. You need those things. It's incredibly important. So Freemasonry benefits society in a number of different ways. Some of them are more well-known. Some of them are maybe less well-known. Freemasonry does a ton of charitable work within communities. The Masonic Charitable Foundation releases a report every year. That's out of United Kingdom, out of England. I mean, you're talking about literally hundreds of thousands to millions of pounds going to all sorts of different research on all sorts of different subjects, from cancer research, dementia, caregiving. So they very often will raise money for charity. They'll do soup kitchen, volunteering, organize it as a lodge. They will give out, in California, they're doing this really great program it's called Masons for Mitts, where they're helping purchase baseball mitts for sports teams, especially in underprivileged areas. Then, Freemasonry helps benefits its members. However, those benefits are then felt in the community at large. For example, I know 3 members of Freemasonry or of lodges that would have been homeless without Freemasonry stepping in and assisting them, right? I've known three brothers who would have found themselves homeless if not for Masonic lodges stepping in and, helping to cover their rent or their mortgage. That doesn't just help that brother, that helps the entire community, because if that brother ends up homeless, now he is going to be reliant on shelters, and his family for that matter are going to be reliant on shelters. They'll be sleeping on the street. They may need to use social assistance. They may need to use soup kitchens or food banks, or avail themselves of any number of government services. And there's nothing wrong with those services, but I do think we should do our best to ensure that they're not needed, that by and large people don't need to use them, or they're safe for people who actually need them the most. And so Freemasonry stepping in and helping its brothers, it actually helps the entire community by making sure, again, people aren't ending up homeless, which helps you if you live in the community, whether you realize it or not, right? Freemasonry provides emotional support, especially we see stories about men, especially young men, suffering from loneliness, suffering from isolation. In some cases, maybe becoming dangerous because of that isolation. Freemasonry gives them a sense of community, a sense of support, a sense of purpose that maybe stops them from going down some more dangerous paths or more unhealthy paths. And then Freemasonry helps society as well by providing a civic and community space that is actually based truly on community, not based on religious community or political ideology or ethnicity, but rather welcomes men and women of all different backgrounds together, which demonstrates to the community and society at large that it absolutely is possible, and is not just possible, but is helpful to form bonds based not on narrow civil or religious institutions, but on the idea that we are all brothers, we are all men, again, and women as well. We are all people, and we all care for each other and want our communities to be better. By demonstrating that to communities and the world, maybe it helps society, reminds society of what it can be at its best. Our buildings are very often cultural, architectural, and historical centers. They very often provide spaces for a variety of different functions, everything and anything from schools to help children learn how to read, through to locations for testing, like exams for nursing, for example, through to first aid courses, through to dances and celebrations and weddings and theater productions and the arts, which then provides benefit for the entire economy. Freemasonry often will purchase from local shops different products and services, certainly from restaurants. We very often use them to cater events, which is of economic benefit. I've seen different studies. I need to find more in depth, but for every Masonic lodge that's built, it puts in something like $10,000 to $20,000 of economic benefit to the community at large, and that's straight like purchasing goods and services. That doesn't count things like charitable donations. And then very often our Masonic buildings themselves are things of beauty, and they provide a great deal to the architectural characteristic of society. Our Masonic buildings are some of the most beautiful buildings in the world. Looking at something beautiful is of benefit. And yeah, it helps the health of the membership. Therefore, it results in the membership needing to rely less upon medical resources in the community, which then frees those up for other people. That's just a few of the ways that Freemasonry benefits society at large, if that made any sense. So Thomas Hastings, Freemasonry, again, Freemasonry is not a belief. It's not a religion, right? We are not that, okay? Thomas Hastings, every Freemason has to believe in a supreme being. However, what that supreme being is up to each individual Mason. Some may believe in, some may be Christian, some may be Muslim, some may be Jewish, Hindu, Sikh, indigenous, right? Again, saying, does Freemasonry believe in God? It's like saying, do football players believe in God? It's like, ask each football player what they believe to understand. Freemasonry is not a doctrine, it's not a doctrinal organization, right? You can do that without Freemasonry and the way it's experienced. If you want to do those things without Freemasonry, then more power to you. You are absolutely free to find any number of ways to make the community a better place, from volunteering at a church to volunteering at the Salvation Army to playing sports and being part of a team to just going out on your own and picking up garbage to donating to charity personally to organizing things at your work, right? When you say we can do that without Freemasonry, um, well, then do it without Freemasonry. I choose to do it with Freemasonry because I love Freemasonry. If you don't, then that's fine too. They don't have to be Freemasons, David Thompson, the people who get help with food or rent. Usually they are because they're the ones who will come to the lodge and request assistance, right? If you're a Freemason and you're struggling to pay rent, you can contact the Masonic Lodge and express, hey, I'm having trouble. I need help with benevolence. That's one of the reasons why I recommend or suggest very often that um, every Mason should know and understand the process by which they can request from the lodge benevolence and what that looks like, how that works, so they know if they're in trouble what to do. Not every lodge has the finances to be able to give benevolence, so it's not an every lodge situation, but many lodges are able to do so and do versions of that. But if you're not a Mason, but you know a Mason, maybe you can ask him to make the request to the lodge, and the Mason can explain, I have a friend who's struggling and he needs help. It doesn't have to be, but it usually is. And again, maybe a non-Mason has other places he or she can look for charitable assistance as well, right? There's only so much that can be done. Um, Nature Boy, your family and work have to come first. So, whatever events the Masonic Lodge is planning, um, your family and work have to come first. And that's completely understandable. All right, the Waits experience. You have your own opinions, and that's fine. I'm not going to convince you otherwise, but you keep repeating yourself. It gets annoying and frustrating. How much does membership cost, though? So, membership costs depend on the lodge you're applying to and how big it is and how expensive it is to operate. It can be I'm a member of 5 Masonic lodges, one in Texas, one in Israel, 3 in Canada. The one in Texas cost me $25 per year to be a member. The one one of the ones in Ontario, the most expensive one is $250. So the point is, it all depends on the lodge itself and how they operate. There's usually also a one-time fee related to your initiation. Right? So there's usually all right, the Watts experience. There's usually a 24-hour, there's usually, Thomas, a one-time initiation fee. So like when I joined Freemasonry, the first lodge I joined, it was, if I recall correctly, and this was 20 years ago, it was $300 one-time initiation fee and $100 a year after that. And then it kept bumping up. Just recently, they increased it to $150. So as Exon, there is not a message on the back of the Declaration of Independence, at least to my knowledge, although clearly you've been reading, watching some National Treasure, which is, by the way, a great movie. I enjoy it very much. I know a lot of Masons really like that movie as well. So thank you for being here. I hope you're doing well. And take a moment, hit that like and subscribe button, and let me know if you have any more thoughts, if my questions or if my answers are making sense. Um, Thomas um, Minotaur, good morning. Thank you for being here. Chipper, I can't read Chipper on Chipperontis. I will drink some water. I got some water right here. Don't worry. I promise you I'm drinking lots of water. Um, they do not. I've known many Masons who've left. Sometimes they don't leave, like they don't announce they're leaving. They just stop attending lodge, stop paying their dues, whatever it might be. And other times they may announce that they're planning to leave Freemasonry, which is called taking a demit. It is, they're free to do as they please. Right? Freemasonry is not a cult. So people can come and go as they so desire. Sometimes people will leave Freemasonry and come back. Sometimes they'll just stay out of Freemasonry. Um, so yeah, it really just depends on their circumstances. But Freemasonry is not a cult. People can come and go as they please. And believe me, there's been times when I've got so tired of Freemasonry, I've thought about walking away myself. But because like everything else, sometimes it's a struggle, right? Anything worth doing brings with it its own challenges and its own difficulties, and that's okay. A big part of this is that you kind of figure things out as you go and what works and what doesn't. All right, let's give it some more time. Let's see who jumps in. Again, let me know if my questions or my answers have made sense, if I've explained things well. If I haven't, then I shall try again. Well, I mean, I don't know what you would mean by that, right? In the sense that, like, Freemasonry does not have any, like, organized corruption in the sense that, conspiracy theorists will always claim it does. Like, we're not running the world or running political groups or running governments or anything like that. Look, certainly within any organization, you will find people not acting as you want them to or as they should, because we're human beings. Freemasons make mistakes. Freemasons mess up just like anybody else. The hope is, though, within Freemasonry, one of the things we are instructed or reminded is to be compliant with if nothing else, with the laws of the country in which we live, which would preclude, for example, being corrupt. I'm not going to pretend, though, that Masons are perfect, and Masons mess up just as much as anybody else. If they do, then hopefully they are prosecuted for the mess up and, learn from their mistakes. Good morning, Brain Fog. Thank you for being here. I hope you're doing well. It is 1:45 here, so 7:45 for you. Sounds good. Please take a moment, hit that like button and subscribe button, and thank you guys for being here. And I hope that you are, as always, doing very well. Well, there's not a changing room. Most guys show up to lodge with a suit and tie already on. I will say I've always recommended, if you can, leave your suit and tie in the Masonic building if there's a space for it, and then just change in the washroom. It's so much easier. You're not, risking getting stuff spilled on your suit. It's just a lot easier to do it that way. Well, thank you, Brain Fog. I really love power. I mean, if you love power, I would say Freemasonry is probably not for you. In my experience, Freemasonry, first of all, Freemasonry will not get you power. It will not get you fame or riches, despite what the conspiracy theories or the scam artists say. Freemasonry is not about power, it's about service. Oh, I'm sure it's happened, Thomas. I don't know any personal stories, but I have no doubt it's happened. Again, human nature. I've known Masons who've made mistakes and messed up, and in those cases, if it's a crime, for example, they whatever there's the criminal consequences, and then within Freemasonry, they would be suspended for unmasonic conduct. Because if you are committing crimes, then that would be considered unmasonic conduct. So I've no doubt it's happened. I've never seen it personally, though. Um, well, I would say, in my experience, power corrupts to the extent that anybody has the power, right? It's not about absolute power. It's just any power can have a very corrupting influence, which is why you need social institutions and civic institutions like Freemasonry. If nothing else, they need to provide I think they can provide a moderating influence by reminding people that they are connected with other people and they have a responsibility to try and what they do affects everybody. What they do affects the community, and they need to think about that. Um, well, I don't know which temple you're talking about, Nature Boy, because there's dozens and dozens of Masonic temples. Dozens and dozens, Jesus. There's thousands of Masonic temples all around the world. Um, I would imagine, hundreds, if not several, like dozens. I would imagine probably hundreds in Canada, probably thousands between Canada and the United States. So I have no idea which one you're referring to, and I wouldn't know either, right? Again, there's so many Masonic temples out there in the world. I mean, again, there is no Masonic belief, right? Like some Masons may believe in having minimal possessions, some may believe in having an excess. I would say maybe Freemasonry kind of illuminates a value in moderation, but like there is no Masonic belief. Asking do Freemasons believe is like asking do football players believe, right? Or do gym members believe? Freemason is a designation of membership. It's not a designation of belief. Every Freemason has his own views. Every Freemason has his own beliefs. Yes, brain fog. Women can be Freemasons. You have the Order of Women Freemasons. You have the Order of Women Freemasons. You also have Co-Masonry. You also have Eastern Star. Well, I'm not Buddhist, so I don't think I would pray at a Buddhist temple. But if I was Buddhist, I would. I would, sit and lodge with a Buddhist Mason, though. They would be my brothers. I mean, Freemasonry, there's no rule against like how much money you have in your bank account, but I would say if you are, poor to the extent that you are struggling with things like rent and food or you're insecure, it may not be the best time for you to um, be joining a Masonic body or any body. You may want to get your finances in order first because there are costs associated with joining Freemasonry. Um, It depends. It's tough to say because every lodge is different. It depends if you have education. I will say, within my experience, the average length of time for a meeting is an hour and a half to 2 hours, both for degrees and for administrative meetings. Well, it's always good to have, it's always really great to have things to offer a Masonic lodge, and I think that's awesome. Whether it be, let's say you're an artist, you can design posters for them to advertise events they may be holding at the building, or if you're into web development, you can help them with their website. However, again, there are costs associated with Freemasonry, even just time, right? Like brain fog, if you are poor and let's say you're looking for work, if you find yourself, you basically you might need to take any job you can get, and that might mean you don't have time or you're not able to take time off of that job for Freemasonry. You should focus on the job, obviously, and getting your finances sorted out. But I always say it's best to have yourself in somewhat decent shape, not perfect, because no one will be in perfect shape, but financial, emotional, physical, before you look at joining Freemasonry. The main point that Freemasonry was created was as a social club. That's all it was at the start, right? That's the main point of it. It's brotherly love. It's a social club. It really is, in many ways, a very formalized guys' night out What's the point of getting together with your friends on a Friday night and going to the bar? You enjoy their company. They developed ceremonies, rituals, practices, all of that type of stuff in order to create bonds of brotherhood because the friend group got so big. If, every Friday night you go out with your friends and suddenly there's 3, 400, 500 people all wanting to go out with you guys, you're going to need to start developing some type of protocols and rituals and administration to help deal with that. You're going to need to look at getting your own buildings, et cetera, et cetera. But at its core, that's what it is. It's about brotherly love and enjoying one another's company, right? And within your friend group, you're not asking them or thinking about what are their political beliefs, what are their religious beliefs, what do they believe. No one would say, like, um, no one would say Thomas Hastings, like, what was the point that you and your friends got together to hang out? Or what does the Thomas Hastings friend group believe? And if you are basing your friendship on religious or political affiliations, I would say maybe you do need Freemasonry to remind you the value of tolerance and relationships with people of different beliefs. Um, all right. Well, first of all, no one has to sell their car. Let's not be giving people financial advice. I have no idea what brain fog situation is, but they may very well need that car. Look, if you are interested in joining a Masonic lodge, then you are welcome to try to find a local, Order of Women Freemasons or whatever it is, lodge in your area. But please, please keep in mind that again, there is a commitment of time. There could be a commitment of money. They may be willing to forgive dues. They may not be. But you do want to try to have yourself in relatively stable condition, I think, financially, mental health, physical health, before you join Freemasonry. Freemasonry is more about what you can contribute than what you can give, than what you take from it. If you are so focused on your financial issues that you're not focused on the lodge, it's best to deal with one thing at a time. Put it that way. Well, I didn't recognize anybody. I moved to Windsor in 2006. I joined the Masonic Lodge here in 2007. So I didn't really know a ton of people. No one I knew at that time was a Freemason. Actually, one person was, but he wasn't a member of my lodge. So, um, Liz, I am a handsome guy. That's what matters. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Um, I don't know anything about the Hellfire Club, Sam Frost, so I can't speak to it. It's not easy. People are very foolish. I've learned that people are very foolish. The patience can be challenging sometimes, but you try your best. I hope everybody watching this will take a moment to please hit the like button, please hit the subscribe button, and let me know how you're doing, and let me know if my answers to your questions have made sense. Um, And let's not have anybody sell their car on the channel. Not that I don't appreciate people trying to make friends or trying to make business connections or trying to sell, but this is not the place. Facebook Marketplace is maybe where you want to go. Put it up on Facebook Marketplace. Let's give it a bit more time though and see if anybody else jumps on. That's a good question. The Beatles. I would have to go with the Beatles. Although I do like the Stones, don't get me wrong. I really did like what's it called? I really did like the movie. It's been a while since I've seen it, but Yesterday I thought it was a good movie. That was a really fascinating question of the cost or the price of success. Right at the end, spoiler alert, but at the end of the movie in Yesterday, when the main character goes to visit John Lennon and he meets John Lennon, and John Lennon's alive. He's what, 78? He's happy. He had a good life. You kind of see that and you think to yourself, like, maybe it would have been better for John Lennon if he was never famous, if he never had the success of the Beatles. And then you ask the question, what's more important, John Lennon's happiness or the happiness of the world? Because the world was, I mean, the world lost the amazing music of the Beatles, but the consequence of that was John Lennon got to live a long life. So the question becomes, you know, what's more important, an individual's happiness or the, giving something beautiful to the world? And why does it seem so often that one's happiness and the ability to give something beautiful to the world is so often at odds and contradictory to one another? There's a cost to caring. There's a cost to trying your best, right? There's a cost to trying to do something great, trying to do something big, trying to do something that matters, whether it be music or Freemasonry or anything else. There's a cost to these things. I have no idea what a Tavistock creation means. I am definitely not a god. I am a human being. Do not start to pray to me, Mavros bodyguard. That's not good. They shouldn't be testing you, nature boy. They should not be testing you. I mean, they should not be hazing you. They do ask you questions to see about why you want to join and what you hope to get from it and learn more about you. That's also your chance to speak with them about what Freemasonry is and kind of what learn more about them and the lodge. I always say the process of joining a lodge, it's a double-edged process in that it's your chance to learn as much as they are learning about you, the lodge is learning about the applicant. It really is a chance for the applicant to learn about the lodge as well. So don't be afraid to take advantage of it and talk to them. Captain America. Honestly, St. Louis, Missouri, I'm almost embarrassed to say, about 4 years ago, I spent a week in St. Louis, Missouri. It was incredible. And I visited Masonic lodges there. I interviewed brothers for my podcast there. It was absolutely incredible. Such an incredible, beautiful city. Wonderful brothers. I visited the St. Louis Scottish Rite Temple. I loved it. But it's been so long, I really forget almost everything, like all the specifics of where the lodges were. But I remember being there a few years ago and loving it. It was a beautiful place. I mean, great Masons there, I'll say that. And I loved it. Well, don't be doing magic, brain fog. Um, but I mean, I don't know what it means to be a witch. I mean, I've known a couple Wiccan Freemasons, Wiccan. I'm not sure if that's the same thing. I've never known any pagan Freemasons. So you need to believe in a supreme being. If you believe in a supreme being, then that should be good enough. I'm not one who believes in magic, put it that way. I'm very much and this is my personal opinion, I'm very much not one who believes in the supernatural. But, even within Freemasonry, there's been a variety of different opinions on that. Famously, Harry Houdini was very much I guess, rationalist would be the term. He did not believe in the supernatural at all. He was very much opposed to belief in the supernatural, whereas Arthur Conan Doyle, who was a Freemason as well, very much believed in the supernatural and magic. And the two of them, had a falling out over it. No, that's a human being, so definitely not Rabbit Dog. I would say no. Not to get political, but neither would, let's say, Joe Biden. But what I always say is talk to the lodge, right? Tell them what you believe and let them decide if that qualifies. Whoa, yeah, Clementine, cut that out. We're not going to talk to people on the stream. We're going to talk to me. Um, there's no reason to believe that brain fog believes in Satan. So you're not going to be judging people on the stream. Everybody gets to believe what they want. Just because I don't believe in magic doesn't mean that other people don't have to, or whatever it might be. Everybody gets to believe what they want. Hello, Lon. Thank you for being here. Um, cool. I mean, I really loved my time in St. Louis, Missouri. It was a beautiful city. I stayed with some brothers, which was really wonderful, in a small town just south of St. Louis. South of St. Louis, I visited a ton of Masonic buildings there, a ton of Masonic lodges. It was really cool. So what I'll say is it was great. I really, really enjoyed it. And what I would say is, Captain America, if you are hoping to or thinking about joining Freemasonry, you will absolutely, um, you will without a question, absolutely, you couldn't find better brothers than those in St. Louis, Missouri. So, um, no, it doesn't need to be stopped. It's okay. Clementine said she's sorry, so we're going to leave it at that. A big lighter would be magic 200 years ago. Well, certainly, I believe in technology. I don't believe in the supernatural, but that's me, in my opinion, right? Again, I don't speak for every Freemason. I've known a couple of Freemasons, again, who just find themselves as Wiccan, and that's kind of their beliefs. So I did targeted pattern. I did my basic training in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. I do not know where that is, but very cool. And it sounds like you're part of the military. So thank you for your service. And, a lot of members of the military throughout history have been Freemasons. In fact, Freemasonry very much spread in a variety of ways, but very much spread through military encampments in the British military encampments. Well, Rapid Dog, that's the paradox, right? I forget who said that, but that's a pretty common quote. Well, I mean, I don't know if I'd use the term rationalist. I suppose what I'd say is I believe in a supreme being. My supreme being is the rational nature of the universe as expressed through geometry and through scientific understanding, right? Other Freemasons, again, are that we have Christian Freemasons, Jewish Freemasons, Hindu, Sikh, Indigenous, First Nations, or ones who are more spiritual like me and don't have any specific, maybe don't have any specific religious beliefs, but believe in a supreme being. Um, well, brain fog, you're gonna have to cut it out. Not gonna have any resentments in the chat. Otherwise, you are gonna find yourself in a timeout as well. My dad and older brother were both 3rd Infantry out of Fort Stewart in Georgia. Well, stop, Clementine. I guess to your dad and oldest brother, also thank them for their service. I mean, I'm a wuss, so I cannot imagine going through military training, let alone military deployment, and how challenging that would be. But I do have great respect for the military, obviously. And I would say um, again, so much of Masonic history is based in the military. One of the ways that Freemasonry spread throughout the world after the first Grand Lodge formed in England was through military encampments. Lodges, military encampments would be set up or would be set up on military bases or military encampments of British Army and the British soldiers. That's how it came to, for example, India, if I recall correctly. Also, even in modern times, you actually are still seeing that spread in the Middle East, where in, for example, Qatar, uh, even though or UAE as well, I believe, even though Freemasonry is illegal in those countries, it still actually is in existence on military bases in the Middle East. So that was also the case in Afghanistan. Both Canadian and American lodges formed on military bases, which was really, really cool. Well, Nature Boy, I mean, I would say if that's the exclusive reason you would pay just to learn the secrets, quote unquote, the secrets, then I don't know if that's the best reason to join. Look, you can absolutely continue to get outside learning, like continuous learning through, I mean, just get a library card and you're all set, like the Goodwill Hunting thing, right? You can just get a library card. Um, you should join Freemasonry because there's something about it that speaks to you, that you find interesting, and that you think you'll respond well to. To a certain extent, it is always going to be a leap of faith, and that's perfectly fine. But if you are joining just because you want to get the secrets, I mean, you'll join, you'll go through the degrees, and then you'll just leave at that point, right? It's not going to be that interesting. And it's going to be in some ways a waste of everybody's time and money, in my opinion, because you're paying for this, you're going through the degrees to never come back again. You know, it's very bad value proposition. Whereas me, I mean, I'm paying, let's say, $150 a year, but I'm at lodge almost every night of the week. I'm visiting Masonic lodges around the world. I'm taking part in events. Um, I have brothers I can count on. It's like, what is the value proposition, right? Um, Died in Vietnam. Andrew, I'm not sure why your grandma would not approve of this stream, but okay. Uh, I think everybody should approve of my stream. Nowhere. We do not hide bodies. Please hit the like and subscribe button. I'd very much appreciate it. Rapid by nature. Hello, Silence and Violence. Welcome back. Thank you for being here. I hope you're doing well. Please take a moment, hit the like and subscribe button. It depends. I mean, it depends on the Masonic building, right? There is no, like in my area, we have 7 Masonic lodges. So almost every night of the week, something is happening. Somebody's meeting, or there's a committee meeting, or, I have the keys to the building. There's something going on. There's a social event, there's a club, there's a whatever it is. So you can absolutely, every night of the week find something to do. If you're part of, let's say, or live in a small town where there's a single Masonic lodge, they may meet just once a month. It really depends on the lodge and what they're up to. Hello, Mr. Fox. Thank you for being here. I mean, Jay Richardson, I'm not going to speculate. I don't know anything about it, so I'm going to assume the most simplest answer is correct, which is it was a real attack and it's dangerous. And we need to take that stuff seriously because it's incredibly dangerous. It's absolutely incredibly dangerous to be letting these things get out of hand. I mean, with politicians, there's a ton of danger and weird stalkers, and it's very scary. It's very scary. I don't buy that. I mean, again, I'm not going to speculate. I saw it. I'm going to assume it was real. If evidence comes out otherwise, then so be it. But I think it's really dangerous because once you start to accuse it of being staged, that just encourages more violence because now people feel like they can get away with it because people will assume it was staged. So you need to be incredibly careful about saying that. And again, I'm sure it'd be very scary. I'd be scared. You don't know. I mean, thank heavens it was, I guess, just some type of syringe with liquid, but could have been anything. Could have been a gun. Could have been a knife. Right? I don't think I have a lazy eye, Andrew. I could be wrong, but I don't think I have a lazy eye. Although, who knows? I'm getting older. As you get older, all these imperfections become more noticeable. Brain fog. I hope nobody comes for you. I would say if you have insecurities and you're worried about them, maybe talk to a therapist, talk to a friend, talk to somebody who can help you deal with those things. We all have insecurities without question, but I also truly believe that if we can find people to talk to, we can absolutely try to overcome them. Thank you, brain fog. again, it's one of those things. I'm not a fan of speculating about this stuff because we don't know what happens. So, like we saw what happened. Beyond that, speculating about things, I don't think does anybody any favors. Um, this whole thing about like the idea of they edited his face or whatever it is. It's like he still was who he was, and it's still a tragedy. I think one of the biggest dangers we have right now, and this is something that Freemasonry does kind of teach us, is something happens, whatever it is, and then immediately there's this need to go like, okay, everybody has an opinion, everybody says what they think, everybody responds right away. Look, there'll be an investigation. There'll be, the police will investigate. There'll be a court case. A jury or a judge will decide, and you go from there. Not everybody needs to be speculating about these things. It's not helpful. It just puts more people at risk. Richard J. Richardson, you're going to find yourself in timeout. This channel is supposed to be about Freemasonry. One thing Freemasonry teaches us is tolerance and kindness. You definitely do not seem to be expressing either of those things. I mean, I've never heard any Freemasons talk about witches. Again, I've known a couple of Wiccan, Wiccan Freemasons. I have no issue with witches. I mean, again, the beautiful thing about Freemasonry is to be a Freemason, you must believe in a supreme being. However, what that supreme being is, or the nature of that supreme being, is completely up to you. And so, yeah, I have no issue with witches. Oh, there is no they, Mojo. There is no they. Whenever people start to use the term they, I almost always, dismiss them because they is a way to stop thinking, right? If I'm struggling in my life, I can just say they are causing it. I don't have to be specific. People use the term they when they don't have the ability to think. That would have been Albert Pike was not a founder of the KKK. I don't believe Albert Pike was a member of the KKK. Now, Nathaniel Bedford Forrest, to my knowledge, was, and he was also a Freemason. That's an example of a person not understanding what Freemasonry is or how Freemasonry or what Freemasonry should be, not understanding tolerance and, the universal understanding that Freemasons should not judge anyone based on their race. Not everybody gets it, unfortunately. Not everybody got it at the time. That goes back to this idea of Freemasons are human beings. We're not perfect. We don't always, act in accordance with Masonic principles, unfortunately. But I think when we are at our best, we do act in accordance with Masonic principles. Oh my gosh, that sucks. I'll have to look that up. Lindenhof Masonic Building in Zurich. Yes, Will, please like and subscribe. In my town. So Freemasons have no issues with the Catholic Church at all. The Catholic Church may have issues with Freemasonry, but we do not have we do not have issue with the Catholic Church. So, and honestly, I just discovered that in the single Masonic lodge that in a Masonic lodge that was formed in a concentration camp, Lodge Cherished Liberty. The lookout who let them meet without interference from the guards or other prisoners was in fact a Catholic man. So that's a cool little note. Well, if you are a they them as a pronoun, then that's one thing and that's perfectly fine. If you're saying they are doing X or they are doing Y and you're not being specific but referring to just some anonymous non-designated group, then that is not good. And that is a way to not think. We always called it a lot of buildings are called the Masonic Temple, right? Windsor Masonic Temple, Detroit Masonic Temple, but they can also be called like the Masonic Hall, the Masonic Conference Center, the Masonic Space. It really depends on what they want to call it. They're really moving away, though, in Freemasonry from calling buildings Masonic temples because temple has a religious connotation and Freemasonry is not a religion. So, well, they can call us that if they want. Again, I've known many Catholic Freemasons. I've known many Masons of all different religious beliefs, including Catholics. So, I'm not particularly concerned about that. Again, it's my responsibility to be it's my responsibility to be the best version of myself I can be and to demonstrate to others the best version of being a Freemason. And again, whatever the official leadership of the Catholic Church may say, I can tell you again, as I mentioned before, I've known many Catholic Freemasons who seem to have no issue being both Catholic and a Freemason. So AA isn't related to Freemasonry, as Silence and Violence points out, except I will say sometimes our Masonic buildings are used as an AA meeting space. Especially if it's in a small town and there's really nowhere else to meet. It's very often churches as well, but it's very often, or has been in the past, Masonic buildings. So yeah. I don't know if most Catholics are against Freemasonry, truth. Certainly, I would say the Catholic Church is against Freemasonry. But again, unofficially, I've known plenty of Catholic Masons. Doesn't seem to bother them, so. It's not easy all the time. So Freemasonry is related to Rosicrucianism. I'm actually a member of Rose Croix in Scottish Rite, but I don't remember the history of it a lot. I have to look into that more. It'd be worth studying and doing a talk on it because it's a really interesting, and really cool history and connections, but I don't know the specifics of it. No, AA is, certainly, look, I'm sure there have been Masons who have struggled with substance abuse, and I hope they were able to get some help through AA. I've actually known some who struggled with substance abuse. That they may go to AA. Again, our buildings may be used as a meeting place for AA. That can happen, but it's one of those things where there is no direct connection. How many? That's so many. That's a tough question, truth, because it's changing all the time. It depends on who you ask and how you define it. You have like in terms of Grand Lodges, you have your AF and AM, your F and AM, you have so many different rites. The better way to think about it is Freemasonry is an umbrella term, and it refers to a variety of different groups and organizations, all of whom can trace their lineage in some ways back to stonemason guilds. But the numbers are, because you start like you have youth groups, you have Rainbow and Demolay, you have the Order of Women Freemasons, you have Eastern Star, you have all the different Grand Lodges, both Prince Hall and quote unquote AF and AM are regular. You have Grand Orient, you have Co-Masonry, you have Scottish Rite, York Rite, Shriners, you have Swiss Rite, you have French Rite, you have Memphis Mizraim in Europe. The point is, it's a lot. It's a lot more, and it gets really complicated. I always suggest at the start, the most important thing is to focus on, to focus on just finding a lodge that is recognized and regular, and you find that out by asking the lodge that you're joining if they are regular and to which Grand Lodge they're associated. And that's all you need to worry about at the start. You'll kind of learn about the different groups as you go through. Awesome, Captain America. Many people's great-grandmothers were. It's one of those things where it's a very popular organization, and for good reason. It was a great It was an excellent and a wonderful, part of Freemasonry. Started, I used to know this, in 1850 in Missouri, if I recall correctly. Well, there's no England rite. That probably would be called emulation ritual. Um, French is sometimes called Scottish Rite because the Scottish Rite started in France. So again, it gets so complicated, and that's why I always tell guys, don't worry about it at the early stage. When you're starting your Masonic career, just focus on finding a lodge that's regular. Because even like you have emulation ritual, which is from England, and then you have York ritual, which is often considered Preston and Webb. So it gets very complicated. Well, they should not have been called witches because Eastern Star, to my knowledge, again, it's like Freemasonry. They have to believe in a supreme being. But you could have Christian Eastern Star, you Jewish, different races, religions, creeds, all that jazz. I try my best. I don't always succeed, but I try my best. Um, and please, again, I hope everybody will take a moment to hit that like and subscribe button. Good. I mean, if it worked well for them, that's what matters. That's the most important thing, Captain America. Not everybody's going to love Freemasonry the way I do, or the way your grandmother did, or great grandmother, which is perfectly fine, right? Everybody can find it for them, what will work for themselves. What I would say, though, and I think I've said this before, is if you love Freemasonry, then it can absolutely be an incredibly valuable part of your life, an incredibly important part of your life, and it can be the type of thing that you can use that puts you in a privileged position to help communities through the application of brotherly love, relief, and truth. Or if I had to pick one, I would pick vampires as opposed to werewolves, because I love Angel and I love Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and those were all about the vampires. My favorite character is actually Spike. I also really love Charmed, the TV show, and that's about three witches. So, well, the original Freemason, again, it depends on what you would define as the original Freemason, Nature Boy. That gets really complicated. If you refer to the original Freemason as the first speculative Mason, or I'm just going to get the title, get the name right. Right, then it would be Sir Anthony Alexander, Lord Alexander, and Sir Alexander Stratton, all in 1634 out of Mary's Chapel Lodge number 1. Those were the first speculative Masons, or the first Freemasons. You could use Sayer, Anthony Sayer, Sayer, who was the first Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of England. If you want to count the first Freemason, or stonemason, excuse me, the first stonemason, I mean, some would say Nimrod, some have argued Noah, some have argued Adam from Adam and Eve. I would argue it was the unnamed Australopithecus afarensis, our human ancestor, who 3 million years ago, thereabouts, fashioned the first stone tools in Africa 3 million years ago. All right. Some say it's Nimrod, actually, from the Bible. A lot of people argue it's Nimrod, who was the architect at the Tower of Babel. But to my knowledge, he developed his bricks out of, clay and straw, not out of stone. Well, Freemasonry, if I recall correctly, the first Canadian Mason was in Nova Scotia. Let me just double check to make sure I got that right. Yeah, the first Canadian Mason was Major Erasmus James Phillips, establishing the first lodge in Annapolis Royal, Nova Scotia, 1738. I did not know that Nimrod stole the lambskins from Noah. I don't know a ton about theology or kind of biblical studies, but that's still very cool. Um, That's very cool, Stop Clementine. Again, and that's an example of Freemasonry as being a tolerant organization, welcoming people of different races. A lot of times, men and women escape discrimination by joining Freemasonry. So, we're going to give it a bit more time. Let's wait to see who else joins. Please take a moment, hit that like and subscribe button. Uh, we'll see what else we got. From what I understand, Nimrod stole the lambskins. Yeah, again, I do not know my biblical history that well, or theology, I guess would be the right term for it, but cool. Again, a lot of people call Nimrod the first free stonemason because of his work with the Tower of Babel. I've heard others use other biblical figures. Some say Adam, from Adam and Eve, which I guess by definition, if he's the first human, if you believe in the Bible, like literally, if he's the first human, and if he he would have been, by definition, as soon as he picked up and used a stone or a rock, he would have been the first stonemason. Um, like in what sense, Nature Boy? Verification of what? Like verification of your identity? I've never heard of that. I mean, a lodge may ask you, honestly, what I've always seen seems to be just trust. Like they go on trust, but they do ask for like your basic information. When they give you the application form, they're going to ask for like your name, your address, your age, your phone number, your email. It may not be a bad idea to bring with you a piece of ID that they can, or maybe even a copy of the piece of ID you have, and attach it to the application form just so they've got it, so it's verification. But by and large, they're going to trust you. Or even like a proof of address somehow doesn't hurt anything. Um, so yeah, it's worth considering, but I don't think it needs to be a passport or a birth certificate. It could probably be a driver's license or even a letter which has your address on it. Again, though, I've not really heard of any lodges requesting it. Although now that I think about it, Nature Boy, it's not a terrible idea to actually have a lodge keep a copy of someone's ID when they're applying, so you've got confirmation of their address and confirmation of their information. Because I've said before in the past, and I still believe this, by the way, that we as Freemasons, it behooves us to try our best to actually learn more about and understand more about our applicants. I've suggested in the past we should get, um, you know, credit checks done, health checks, criminal record checks. Getting a copy of one's ID or an applicant's ID to include in their file, not a terrible idea. Stop, Nature Boy. So thank you for that question. It's given me something to think about, and maybe worth trying it out in a lodge for new applicants, getting a copy of their ID just so we have it on file and we've confirmed who they are. We're just giving it a bit more time. We're going to wait to see who joins. I'm just hanging out. I don't have any specific topics, but I have enjoyed the questions. Let's see who can find us. I mean, well, brains, some people may not, which is perfectly fine, right? It's up to them. I mean, I don't know a time for judgment if, like, the best way to answer that question. I mean, I would love it if musicians made, um, I would love it if musicians made music specifically for Freemasonry. I mean, there are some musical Freemasons or musicians who are also Freemasons, like Brad Paisley, Mozart back in the day. But Brad Paisley, Louis Armstrong, they were all Masons. When it comes to the question, though, of like making music specifically for Freemasonry, there actually is rapper Apathy who's makes Masonic music, and I do know somebody else who actually made a song about Freemasonry, a rap song, and he put me in the video. I'm in one of the pictures. So I guess what I'd say is I would love it if artists, musicians made music about their Masonic experience, if they happen to be Freemasons, and use it to promote the craft. I think that would be awesome. But again, it's not necessarily a requirement. Like, I would never say to somebody who's a musician and a Freemason, you have to make music for Freemasonry. That's their profession. They can choose kind of, which jobs they like, what they do, and if they want to make a music for Freemasonry. But it's not a bad idea. I mean, Nature Boy, I don't disagree with that. Although, having said that, a lot of Masons would. I speak for myself exclusively. Keep that in mind. I do not speak. Oh, I got a super chat. Thank you for that. I missed it. Sorry about that. Whomever gave me that super chat, I'm very sorry I missed it. I don't see where it came from, but thank you so much. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. Um, I'm fine with it. I mean, maybe they had a family member who was a Freemason. Maybe they have friends who are Freemasons and they just love. I have no way. In fact, it's something I tried to create or tried to organize, creating a song about Freemasonry, but I'm not an artist, so I didn't have any luck. But I'm a Freemason as well. But I have no issue. I mean, so long as the song is good, that's the thing. If they try to create a song about Freemasonry and the song is not so good, that is an issue. So, yeah, I think that can be a problem. But as long as the song is good, I have no issue with it. So, David Thompson, there is no ultimate end goal to Freemasonry beyond every Mason deciding for himself what they believe the end goal is, right? And that's the thing you need to remember about Freemasonry. Every Mason may have a different end goal. I always suggest, though, it is dangerous to have an end goal in Freemasonry, in that once you reach it, you may be disinclined to continue attending. So if your end goal, for example, there are some Freemasonry songs that already exist, for the record. Nature Boy, I've never heard of any Masonic lodges having a gym or shower now, or Masonic buildings. Now, it's not impossible. And if the lodge was, successful enough, had enough money to build a building that included showers and a gym, more power to them, but they need to have a lot of money to do so. I've known a few people who've written Freemasonry songs. There's a few out there. My friend wrote a Freemasonry song. It's about brotherhood. It's about, relief. It's about the history of Freemasonry. There's a few Masonic songs out there. My friend Michelle, he actually did a whole Masonic song, and he put it on the channel years ago. I just remembered it now. If you type into YouTube or into search, let me just check something here quickly. Masonic song, Michelle Brassard, YouTube. Let me see if I can find it. Dun, dun, dun. Well, if I would say there can be a kitchen, but again, there's not a break time because Freemasonry is not a job that has a break time. Uh, I mean, however you would want to upload it, right? You could do it through YouTube, different platforms. Depends on the nature of the song, whether there's a video. Good morning, Dylan. Again, you've done a break time per se. There's refreshment, but Freemasons do have refreshments either before or after lodge, and so a big part of that is, there might be a kitchen area. There might be just a room off to the side that's not really a kitchen per se, but has some tables or chairs set up. It really is dependent on the lodge itself. It really is dependent on their building and how it was built and how it operates. But again, we don't have breaks per se. We do have what's called going from labor to refreshment. So if we're having a long meeting or we need to invite guests who are non-masons to take part in something, we can go from labor to refreshment, which is like a type of break. I've even heard of lodges where they're doing like a full day. Let's say they have a lot of applicants who applied to be Freemasons. They may do 5 or 6 initiations all in one day. So they may start in the morning with a couple, then take a break, grab some lunch, then go back to the rest. And again, if they have a kitchen in their lodge, they may have their refreshments in the kitchen. If they don't, they may go out for a break or they may order pizza in and just eat around tables. It's always better, though, if it's possible for a Masonic lodge to have some type of kitchen area, just because without that, it's a little bit more expensive because if you have a kitchen area, you can at least with like, let's say an oven and a fridge and some basic utensils, you can at least, your junior warden can, make something at home and keep it cold in the fridge or keep it warm on the oven or in the stove. They don't have to always be relying on takeout, if that makes sense. Honestly, brain fog, I'm sure it has happened. I mean, lodges, I've no doubt it's happened in the past. I can't think of any. There's been lodges that have closed down due to financial issues or membership, lack of membership. I'm sure there's been some scandals, though. Again, Freemasons are humans, so everything that comes with being a human, the good and the bad, you will find within the history of Freemasonry. But hopefully, if we're doing Freemasonry correctly, we are avoiding those. We are avoiding those scandals or dealing with them in appropriate ways. Please take a moment, hit that like and subscribe button. If you're just jumping on the stream, I would very much appreciate it. Happy morning, Jay Mida. Well, definitely not on the counter in the bathroom. I don't even know what that means, but no, not that. But yes, refreshments in the kitchen is how it should be. What do you mean by insider trading? I mean, again, Freemasonry is not a financial institution. Nobody's joining Freemasonry to get rich. Some lodges will have investments. That's possible. No, absolutely not. You should not be doing that in lodge. If anybody is doing that in lodge, shame on them. It should not be happening. Again, Freemasons are human beings, though. So, unfortunately, I'm sure it's happened at some point in history, but I would be very disappointed if I found out it was happening. And I've never seen it happen in a Masonic lodge. So, for whatever it's worth. Right? I mean, I've never done it myself. Freemasons should care about their health and well-being. That should include not having any of those type of refreshments. We're going to give it a bit more time. We're going to wait to see who joins. Then I'll be ending this stream. I'll be back tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. And I hope to see, I guess today technically, January 29th, 1 p.m. Eastern. I hope to see everybody there. Never found that, Jay, and I'm Very happy to say I've never found that, because if I did find that, I would be disappointed. I hated those white gloves. A lot of people talk about the white gloves as being some weird conspiracy thing. It's just a part of formal attire. It used to be very popular amongst like the upper crust groups in the 80s, or not in the 80s, but like in the 20s and the 50s, to wear white gloves with like a tuxedo. For I was once with one Masonic lodge, my mother lodge, the worshipful master, for whatever reason, thought wearing white gloves looked spiffy. So he decided that whenever we had any type of formal event where we had to wear tuxedos, we had to wear white gloves, which was absolutely a huge, huge pain in the butt. I hated it because um, I'm in a wheelchair and you could not get any grip with those white gloves, which meant I would be slipping. Like I could not grip them with my wheelchair, and if I had to hold anything, they would always drop them because there was no grip. I hated those white gloves. I hated them with an absolute passion. I can assure you of that. It's very uncommon in my experience. In the last 10 years, really, to be perfectly honest, I really have seen very few like people wearing gloves, white gloves at Masonic events. It's really kind of gone out of fashion. And I say good because it was such a pain to wear those gloves. Um, so, yes, in my humble opinion. Thank you, Jay. Well, thank you for, I mean, thank you to the, um, thank you for, thank you, first of all, to the YouTube algorithm for helping you stumble across my stream. I truly appreciate that. And thank you for being here as well. I truly appreciate that also. I hope that you're having an excellent night. I appreciate you streaming. Yeah, I don't know if you were born missing your limbs or born needing a wheelchair like me. I was born missing both of my legs. And so I've used a wheelchair. Basically, when I was really young, I had actually, I had artificial legs that I used. But I switched over to a wheelchair in high school and, have stayed with that ever since. So, yeah. But I will say this is a good time to remind people that Freemasonry does not discriminate does not discriminate when it comes to physical disabilities. Right? I've known many Masons with a variety of physical impairments. Some are blind, some like me are in wheelchairs, some are paralyzed. Sometimes it's something they're born with, sometimes it's something that, happened later in life. But either way, I think it behooves us in Freemasonry to make our buildings as accessible as possible. I'm proud of the work I've done with that as well. So, hello, Bricktop. Welcome back. Freemasons don't have fashion trends. Freemasons, the trends tend to be whatever are Masonic, like the trends tend to be whatever is popular in society. So in, again, the 20s and the 50s, it was very common for, like, if you're wearing a tuxedo, you're expected to wear white gloves with it. So then Freemasons started wearing white gloves with their, like, tuxedos, which was a pain in the butt. I can assure you of that. So, yeah, I used to drive me crazy. But yeah, and again, like tails and tuxedos. Again, some Masonic lodges do have dress codes where you're expected to show up in a suit or a tie. Some do not. Some you can show up in just a t-shirt and jeans. Most of the time, though, if you are a worshipful master, you are expected to wear a suit or a tie, or even a tuxedo. Very often in America, if you're the worshipful master, you have to wear a hat as well. So, hey there, Bricktop. Thank you for being here. I hope you're doing well. Please hit like and subscribe. or I guess you already hit subscribe. Please hit the like button. I am a current worshipful master. I appreciate that. I've been a worshipful master of Border Cities Lodge number 554. Something I'm very proud of. It's a lot of work, but it's still something I'm very proud of. I hope you're having an excellent day, a time for judgment, and thank you for being here. Oh, that sucks. I mean, I'm sorry that your leg got, I'm sorry you lost your foot. I'm sorry about the infection. I mean, I would say I was born missing my legs, and so I think in a lot of ways I have it easier because when you're born, you're born with it and you figure out how to make it work. When you lose your legs later in life or a limb later in life, you kind of have to relearn a lot of things, right? You have to relearn everything from your balance to how to walk to how to use an artificial limb. So, nothing but respect to you. And you're definitely a very tough cookie if you're able to go through that and then you're still here and you're still living. Nothing but respect to you. You're definitely one tough son of a gun. So yeah, respect to you. Update your firmware. I don't know what that means. That's like something to do with computer viruses, I think. Thank you, A Time for Judgment. I do my best. Don't always succeed, but I definitely do my best. And that's all you can do in life, right? When it comes to anything in life. Look, I'm not the perfect Freemason. I've said that many times in the past, but I always try my best, and I'm grateful for the efforts I put in and how hard I try, right? And anybody out there who loves something, whether it be Freemasonry or anything else, if you love it and if you're trying your best to make it succeed, then you have my utmost respect because it's not easy. I am not. I have a cat, but beyond that, I am not married. I don't understand what that means, stop, because Freemasonry has obligations, but so does being a doctor, so does being in the military, being a police officer. Like most professions have some type of obligation that like comes with it. So because people have told me like as a Christian I can't take an obligation. But what do Christian doctors do? What do Christian, military vets do? It's not something I understand, put it that way. I mean, I can't speak to that. I don't know what the oaths are in Eastern Star, but I've never, what I will say, and I always, bring this up and point this out, within my Masonic career, I've seen thousands of meetings, thousands of rituals, hundreds of oaths. Never seen any oath that would be, against one's religious, spiritual, civic, or familial responsibilities, or anything that is illegal or, immoral. It's Andrew. It's a wheelchair. I use a wheelchair to get around, like pretty much 100% of the time. When I was young, I had artificial limbs, but I got my wheelchair and I much preferred the wheelchair. So, yeah. Sticking to the chair. Consistency, humbleness, and dedication are great tools for one who wants to be a Mason. There's no doubt about that. Absolutely no doubt about that. And yeah, I think there's a Masonic lesson in there as well, right? When it comes to those things, like absolutely perseverance is a very valuable trait within Freemasonry, as expressed through our working tools. So, well, that's fine. Stop, Clementine. She does not have to take a oath or obligation. She doesn't. I mean, it's not for everybody. For whatever reason it is, she decided it wasn't for her. That's perfectly fine. When I say it, I mean Freemasonry. Um, we're going to give this another, let's say, 10 minutes, and then we'll end the stream. I hope everybody's having a great night. Thank you all for joining. We're going to be back on, again, 1 p.m. I do these streams every Monday through Friday, 1 a.m., 1 p.m. I've produced some more content, written some more stuff down on my YouTube channel community page. Please check that out as well. Let's see if anybody else jumps on to say hello. I'm glad you're having fun. And a lot of Masons have overcome situations. And I do think Freemasonry can help people overcome situations. Now, again, it's not the exclusive way to overcome situations by any means. Other people may find other sources of strength, and that's perfectly fine as well. But for me, I think there's definitely within Freemasonry the ability to overcome challenges and issues. And that's something I'm really grateful for. I'm glad you're having fun, Stop Clementine, and I'm glad you're enjoying it. Check out my other episodes, check out my other channels, check out my other stuff on Freemasonry, my written content, social media, all that stuff would be much appreciated. And thank you for the super chat. Anybody wants to help me out? Just doing a 99-cent super chat, it absolutely helps out big time and would be greatly appreciated. I could use, again, trying to turn my passion for Freemasonry into a profession. So I agree with that 100%. Again, there's many ways to build character. There's many ways to find understanding, but I think Freemasonry is one of them, and it's the one that I really enjoy. So it's the one that I choose to focus on. It's not the exclusive way, but it's the way I choose. So, if that makes any sense. And thank you, everybody, for being here. I hope you're having an excellent night. I truly appreciate you joining us. We're here chatting about Freemasonry. Any thoughts you have on it, let me know, positive, negative, or neutral. I do these streams Mondays through Fridays, 1 p.m. and 1 a.m. And then on top of that, I produce content on a variety of platforms, variety of different YouTube channels as well. So I'd love to see what you guys have to say. Let's give it a bit of time and let's see who joins. Jerry, Freemasonry is none of that. Freemasonry is a civic or community group or organization. So, Jerry, you are incorrect. And within each other as well, but absolutely, and between communities. The fact that I'm, always visiting Detroit, always visiting Chicago, meeting my brothers there, that's a really huge deal, and it really helps, bring love and respect between communities. Howdy Beyond Ether. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for being here. It's good to see you again. Jerry, let me know where you got your thoughts, your crazy thoughts, but your thoughts nonetheless. Why is it that you think Freemasonry is, I don't remember what you said, neo-Gnostic heresy? All right, we got to put somebody in a timeout here. All right, timeout for that person. Well, I mean, no, right. Gnosticism, right. The term comes from the term gnosis, which means knowledge. Again, it comes from, it's a diverse, like, it's a bunch of different philosophies all rolled into one. I'll double check the date. If I recall correctly, looks like first and second century religious movements. Look, there are definitely parallels between Freemasonry and Gnosticism. There's also parallels between Freemasonry and Judaism, Freemasonry and Christianity, Freemasonry and Islam, and the Muslim faith, Freemasonry and Chinese mythology, Freemasonry and architectural practices, Freemasonry parallels with Enlightenment era philosophy, Stoic philosophy, Egyptian mysticism. When like you can never say that within Freemasonry it is based on one particular thing, unless you want to say it's based on stone masonry and stone Masonic guilds. But it took from a lot of different sources when developing its rituals and ceremonies. Um, So, Jerry, that is not the case. Again, Freemasonry started in, you can pick, there's some debate about the date, but really 1634, Scotland is the earliest you could go with. It evolved from stone masonry guilds. And basically, the Anderson Constitution, which came out in 1723, basically explains very well why Freemasonry is not a religion, or at least not a religion in the way you and I would consider religion or religious things, right? Um, so you are incorrect, Jerry. Um, I mean, I cannot speak to whether Christianity is anti-Gnostic or pro-Gnostic. What I can say is Freemasonry, again, is not based on Gnosticism. It's not based on any one thing, except you could argue stone masonry and stone mason and stone Masonic guilds. Even the term lodge is a term that comes from stone masonry, particularly the tents that workers would set up at the sides of job sites in order to in order to take lunch and store their tools. That was called a LUD, LOD, or LUD, and eventually it became, evolved into, the term Masonic Lodge. Um, Well, I mean, again, I see you responding to that one. It's not something I can speak on, right? This channel is about Freemasonry. I can't speak to Christianity in terms of its philosophical roots or whether it's Gnostic or not. I can speak to Freemasonry, and I can speak to it based on being a Freemason for approximately 20 years, um, which I'm, very proud of, and attending over 1,000 Masonic events all around the world. I'm grateful for that as well. Um, but yeah, it's not. I mean, again, it borrows from so many different things. I mean, even people don't realize the Islamic influence in Freemasonry, particularly in the shrine, but it's there. Um, it takes a lot from Stoicism, Benjamin Davis. Freemasonry absolutely takes a great deal, or took a great deal from Stoicism and Stoic philosophy. I've actually done a couple podcast episodes about that in the past. Stoicism and Freemasonry. So it's really cool. Certainly, the idea of Gnosticism, as I understand one of the philosophies behind Gnosticism, is this idea of dualism. Certainly, Freemasonry takes that into account when you're looking at, for example, the checkerboard pattern, which many people love to point out. Again, Freemasons may have a favorite color. Freemasonry does not. People use the term Blue Lodge a lot. So maybe the color blue. I would say, for me personally, my favorite color is the color pink. Jason, no. Although that might make a lodge much more interesting and much more exciting, I'm glad to say no. Because if anybody did streak during a meeting, I would probably be disappointed. Or maybe I wouldn't. Who knows? It certainly would make it create a story. So there's that. Oh, I think pink is the best color ever. Hello, first person Victoria. I'm sure there is. Victoria is a very big, Victoria is a very big city, so there's going to be lots of lodges there. Thank you for being here. First person, please hit like and subscribe. I think you're new to the stream. Um, well, Chris, what I would say is, the Catholic Church, more particularly the Catholic leadership, is, free to decree whatever they so choose. I would say for me, I would say I know many Catholic Freemasons who seem to have no issue combining their Catholic faith with being a Freemason, or not even combining is the word, but having both the Catholic faith and being Freemasons. Um, to my knowledge, they are not concerned that they're being damned. So, I would say I hope the Catholic Church reconsiders its position. I've read the Humanum Genus. I think it came out in 1888 or 1885 from Pope Leo the 13th. As to why it is that they had that decision, and I hope they reconsider because it's clear. It showed a clear, in my opinion, a clear lack of understanding as to what Freemasonry is. Um, I mean, Oddfellows and Elk Lodge are both excellent Masonic bodies as well. E771, the live. Well, they seem to be doing okay with it. So, again, whether it's that they're just not telling the church and the churches aren't doing anything, or whether the church knows but is looking the other way, I'd assume in many cases they may be friends with their priest, and so maybe the priest decided to allow them to take communion. I don't know. They seem to make it work. Um, this live is about Freemasonry. I've been a Freemason for 20 years. Promoting the ways Freemasonry was and is relevant in the communities in which it was located. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for being here. Please take a moment, hit like, hit subscribe, and let me know if you have any thoughts. First person, I think you're new. Blaze771. That's the best I can do. Hit the like and subscribe. Jim, I do not know what you mean by my journey. Do you mean my YouTube journey? If you really supported it, you'd do a super chat. Just 99 cents. Helps out big time. Don't really watch Adult Swim, so I can't say. I mean, when it comes to shows that are good for the Brotherhood, I think, look, there's been a ton of great documentaries about Freemasonry, a ton of great television shows featuring Freemasonry, excuse me. Probably the Stonecutter episode of The Simpsons did more to help Freemasonry than almost anything else. So, I'm that penguin. Are you going to reach the like and subscribe button? That's the better question. Can you reach that like and subscribe button? Thank you for enjoying my perspective. I have no idea. This is not a channel about religion. Freemasonry is not religious. I have no idea why the Pope does whatever the Pope chooses to do. I have no issue with the Pope or with the Catholic faith, but I can't speak to their decisions in the Middle East. It's not my place to say. But I guess what I'd say, first person, is Freemason secrecy. I'm here talking about it right now. So, right, the idea that it's shrouded in secrecy is baloney. Again, I would say I'm not one who can talk about religion because it's not something I know very much about. I suppose everybody does their best to make whatever decisions they can as to, you know, what constitutes the faith and the leadership within the church. It's not something I can speak to. Um, Freemasons have private information, but you can learn it by becoming a Mason. Though if the one reason you're joining Freemasonry is to learn the quote unquote secrets or the private information or whatever it is, you're going to be disappointed because that's not what Freemasonry is all about. Canada, born and raised in Winnipeg, now live in Windsor, but my pops is from England. So I see your um, your picture there, your avatar. Looks like we got another English fella. Humans are crazy. I'll give you that. What God is great, beer is good, and people are crazy. To quote a song I like. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. That's a mode of recognition that may or may not exist. But that's not the most important thing within Freemasonry. Mr. Crackers, please hit like and subscribe. Joe the Schmo, there is no single point to Freemasonry. Every Freemason needs to decide what the point is to themselves. I mean, you know, you could argue the point of Freemasonry is the same as the point for any other group or club, which is to fulfill the human desire to belong to something greater than oneself or bigger than oneself. In my opinion, the point of Freemasonry is to try to build a better world, or at least a better community, through the application of brotherly love, relief, and truth. Um, Hello, Freemason guy. Thank you, Cap WNS. Thank you for being here. Freemasonry is not the same as Antichrist cults. Freemasonry is not a cult, nor is it Antichrist, nor is it anti-Christian. So, it's an interesting time politically, Blaze. By the way, hit the like and subscribe button. But we're going to sort it out. I've always said the relationship between, the Masons of different countries is stone, whereas the political situation is sand. The political situation changes. It changes all the time. The love I have for my brothers, whether it be in America or in England, that's going to outlast Trump. That's for sure. There's a few reasons why Joe the Schmo in the 17th century, a former Mason named Adam Weishaupt started the Illuminati. So because he was a former Mason, immediately people connected the two. Then there was this letter written to George Washington, I forget when, claiming the Illuminati had infiltrated Freemasonry. I don't know what that even means. And then conspiracy theories had just took off from there, and then social media allowed them to spread even more and more and more. Nobody works for anybody, Valentino, at least not from a country perspective. Everybody does what they can. Everybody is sovereign within their own countries. So Trump is not a 33rd degree Mason. He's not a Mason of any type, to my knowledge. I don't think he does. I think what you're thinking of is the two-headed eagle, which is actually it's on the floor of the Senate. Beyond Itchy, I don't know because I don't know where you're at and I don't know what resources are available to you. But I would say if you need money fast for, let's say, food, maybe look into a food bank. If for rent, maybe look into social programs that can assist you in the short term. But without knowing where you're at, I can't really help you. And even if I did know where you are, the likelihood is I might not know the resources available to you. I mean, again, I don't know enough about the resources in Barcelona. I will say a lot of places will offer services like free printing of resumes. Sometimes they'll offer you free clothing for job interviews. I know we have that here in Windsor. I can't speak to Barcelona though. Sorry, Bianchi, I'm not looking to hire anybody at the moment, but thank you anyways. I appreciate that. No, Joe the Schmo, to be a Freemason, a requirement is the belief in a supreme being. Could be Christian, could be Muslim, could be Hindu, could be Jewish, could be Sikh, Indigenous or First Nations, Wiccan, Wiccan, but it's not a religion. You don't need to be Christian. Well, then you definitely don't want to work for me because you're not going to get rich working for me, nor will you get rich being a Freemason. You need to keep that in mind as well. Once again, to everybody who's watching this, please take a moment, hit that like button, and hit that subscribe button. I'd be grateful. And thank you all for being here. Um, well, if you want to be a Freemason, Bianchi, then you have to find a Masonic lodge in Barcelona and speak with them. But it's not going to make you rich. If that's your goal, you're going to be very disappointed. We're going to give this stream. It's funny. I planned to do this for just an hour. We've gone for two. I do not. I have no Masonic contacts in Barcelona. I'm very sorry. I wish I could help you out. There could be clandestine lodges there. That's what term we'd use for fake Mason. The biggest thing is asking which lodge they're affiliated with and going from there. Well, I mean, you can be Jewish and a Freemason, or have a Jewish dad and be a Freemason. That's not an issue. It's just, to my knowledge, you never joined. That's right, and it's full of coffee, as it should be. Well, Caesar, I mean, your priest is wrong, but okay. I mean, I'm not going to convince you, I think, otherwise, which is fine, right? All I can do is tell you my experiences and why I love Freemasonry, and you and your priest are both welcome to disagree. If your priest wants to come on this stream and tell me what he's thinking, that's fine, but, believe what you want to believe. No berry, just coffee, just delicious coffee. I mean, Joe the Schmo, they can. Certainly, if you join Freemasonry, then your social network gets bigger. And so it's possible that at the lodge, someone will be looking for a job, or someone will have a job to offer, or whatever it might be, or know somebody who has a job. Um, and so certainly it can happen, but again, it's not the purpose of Freemasonry, and there's no guarantee. So if you're joining Freemasonry because you expect it will help you find a job, you may get lucky, but you may get disappointed. It's no different than joining like a local football club or knitting circle. Your social network gets bigger, you maybe will learn about more opportunities for work, but you want to be really, really careful. If you're joining for that reason, again, especially because our numbers of members have been dropping so significantly, there's much less networking opportunities. Well, Caesar, I would say there are documented cases of many crimes from many different groups. Sometimes they're religious, sometimes they're civil groups, sometimes they're political groups. That doesn't mean that it's representative of the group itself. It just means it's representative of individuals falling short of what they should be doing. We do not do blood oaths. We have our ceremonies or rituals. Pretty much, Joe. I mean, we have our rituals and our ceremonies. We administer the lodge to make sure it preserves. We do education. We can do social nights. It really depends on the lodge and what they want to do. Square and compass. We do not take an oath of Nimrod. At least I've never heard of that. But Nimrod is considered by many to be the first Freemason. Or sorry, the first stonemason, excuse me. The first stonemason when building the Tower of Babel. I've known many priests who support Freemasonry. I've known many preachers who themselves are Freemasons. So yeah, it's just because Caesar's priest is misinformed. That's what happens. Well, it's not heresy because I've seen it, so I know it to be true. Henry, Freemasons are not satanic. Very sorry to disappoint you, but you are incorrect. I mean, I would say there's been battles back and forth. To my knowledge, there were some within France. Some Freemasons were anti-clerical, but I don't know a lot about it. What I can say is in the last 20 years since I joined Freemasonry, I've never heard any Mason speak ill of any religion or church, whether it be the Catholic Church or any other church. Nor have I seen anybody discriminated against because of their religious beliefs, whether they be a Catholic Freemason or any other type of Freemason. CF, I'll take it, because Mark Wahlberg's a handsome fella, and everybody always says I'm ugly on these streams. So if you think I'm handsome, then I appreciate it. Please hit the like and subscribe button, CF3208. I'd very, very much appreciate it. Henry, why do you say Freemasons are satanic? You're incorrect, but why do you say that? The Continental Freemasons, again, I've been to Masonic lodges in England, in Scotland, in the Philippines, and in South America. Never seen anything anti-Catholic within their work, or them speak of anything anti-Catholic. Freemasonry is not an elitist organization, and it does not foster corruption or treason. If you wanted to argue it fosters occultism, I mean, if you define occult as hidden, then sure, because Freemasonry has private or hidden elements. But, by that definition, Barry, your bank account is occultist. Or keeping your bank account private is occult act because you're keeping it hidden. And I'm not saying I want to know your bank account information or your social insurance number or anything like that. The point is there are different valid reasons to maintain privacy. If you want to call that maintaining a cult, then so be it. Technically, you could argue that's the true definition. Well, Grand Orient is different. It's not recognized by a lot of different Masonic lodges. So you need to keep that in mind, right? One of the biggest mistakes people have about Freemasonry, and it sounds like your priest has this mistake as well, Freemasonry is decentralized. So there's no single governing body that controls Freemasonry or tells Freemasons what to do. Rather, it's jurisdictional. So you can have one Masonic body and wherever it is, does something wrong, commits a crime, messes up. That's not a reflection on the rest of Freemasonry because they're not under the same jurisdiction and the same rules. Freemasonry is decentralized. Right, and then you have clandestine lodges, you have irregular, regular affiliated youth groups, rites, shrine, committees, grand lodges, like there's so many different groups within Freemasonry. You need to keep those in mind. I mean, it wouldn't shock me if because Masons are human beings and they mess up. I've never heard of any Masons doing terrorism in anywhere. But what I would say is, and again, I mean, historically, would you argue, for example, that what George Washington did was terrorism, or what the Boston Tea Party did was terrorism, right? I wouldn't, for the record. But the point is, I don't know if you're referring to people like Simon Bolivar and Garibaldi and Jose Rizal, who were kind of leaders of their countries, or if you're referring to different acts, which would be, illegal and which should not be being done by Freemasons. Not most first-person Victoria in the United States. 15 presidents were Freemasons. Well, 14 or 15. 13 signed the Declaration were Freemasons. In terms of countries, again, I don't like the term many because it's too vague. I mean, we know, for example, George Washington was. We know Johnny MacDonald was. Simon Bolivar, Garibaldi, the first Prime Minister of Poland, and Jose Rizal in the Philippines were all Freemasons. So, Yvonne, I do not know about the Jesuits. I know they're a religion, but I don't know anything about them. Even that, I don't know 100%. Religion is not something I know a ton about, to be honest. So it's something I need to learn more about because I have many different religious beliefs represented in my lodge, and I should try to, know more about them and learn more about them. Who is the 33rd president? I don't know who the 33rd president is. There's been 45 presidents. I know that. Going back, it would have been what? I don't know. Who was the 33rd president of the United States? I feel like this is going to take me down some weird conspiracy rabbit hole. Who is 33rd president? Harry S. Truman. He was a Freemason. That's really cool. He was a Freemason. He was famously known as being a very active Mason, even as the president. So I've heard of the P2 Lodge, but again, they're to my knowledge, they're not recognized by many Masonic bodies. Again, let's imagine that I start my own club. I call it Cameron's Masonic Group, and I start to commit crimes. And every time I commit a crime, I, leave a calling card that says this was done by Cameron's Masonic Group. And I, still perform Masonic rituals. In my clubhouse, I purchase. Does that mean Freemasons are doing bad things, or does that mean one guy who's claiming to be a Freemason is doing bad things? You need to always keep in mind and remember, no one lodge, body, group, or jurisdiction can speak for the whole of Freemasonry, including me. I can just give you my experiences. And you can determine based on that, based on what I say, you can use your discernment to determine whether you think it's valid or invalid. Welcome, Gooey. Welcome back. Thank you for being here. It's good to see you again. I hope you're doing well. And please take a moment, hit that like and subscribe button. If you're new, Gooey, I know you're subscribed, so hit that like button. Everybody watching this, hit that like button. I would greatly appreciate it. And if you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Jacob, hello. The first prime minister was a Freemason. Again, the first president of America. Simon Bolivar in Venezuela. Jose Rizal, who was a very important freedom fighter and kind of a founder of the modern Philippines. Garibaldi in Italy, kind of unified Italy. Even the first president of Poland, I believe. Turkey had a lot of Masonic leadership. Well, don't do it with your tongue. That's gross. Well, there's a few different founders, but Garibaldi, let's see if I got his name correct. I'm probably getting it wrong. Founder of modern Italy. Giuseppe Garibaldi. I got it right. Giuseppe Garibaldi. He was a key figure in the Italian unification. He was a Freemason. He actually spent time in Brazil as well. Well, the Catholics are incorrect. So the Catholic document is baloney. Freemasons are not sacrificing anything except for our time. Again, if you want to call our rituals pagan, you can. I guess any ritual that is not from the Catholic Church, I guess, could be considered pagan, but I wouldn't use that term. And we don't have any families within Freemasonry, Luciferian or otherwise. That's not how it works, right? It's not like the mafia where there's families. You can join Freemasonry having never had any members of your family being Freemasons. Well, again, we within Freemasonry don't have a God. Freemasonry is not a religion. Every Mason has his own supreme being, which could be of any different faith or belief, Christian, Catholic, Jewish, Hindu, whatever it might be, Muslim. I don't have a name for my God. My supreme being is the rational nature of the universe, as understood by science and geometry. Okay, Garibaldi was anti-Catholic. Garibaldi was also alive about 200 and something years ago. And again, he was a Freemason. He might have been anti-Catholic as well. That doesn't mean Freemasonry itself is anti-Catholic. It's kind of like many Freemasons, I'm sure some Freemasons out there are vegetarians. That doesn't mean every Freemason is vegetarian or that the organization is that, right? I don't think you need a name. It can, your God may need a name. For me personally, my God doesn't need a name. It's simply an expression of the rational nature of the universe. The Pythagoras theorem is a face of my God, or my belief in a supreme being. I do not study the Kabbalah. I do not really study gematria either, though I know what it is. 1 year later, 1777, if I recall correctly. I think you got it 1 year off. Founding year of, I think it was 1777. Oh, no, I was wrong. 1776. So you were right. Okay. May 1st, 1776. Well, I've been getting that wrong. I keep saying 1777. I don't know why I got that incorrect, but there you go. have to go back and figure all the times I said 1777 and get that correct. So that's an example of me getting it incorrect. So thank you for giving me the heads up. I really appreciate it. Um, the tarot does, but I don't believe in the tarot cards, right? In terms of, I think they're entertaining, but I don't believe they. Um, well, because Freemasons, I mean, which Freemasons, right? Again, Freemasonry, there's not a single, like, this is the thing you're not understanding, Caesar. And the fact that you keep on not understanding it is kind of getting frustrating. There is no single governing Masonic body, right? There is no single governing Masonic body that tells Freemasons what to do. There was no Masonic body telling Garibaldi to be anti-Catholic, or however he might have been. Um, you know, what he chose to do 200 years ago does not reflect Freemasonry that I'm a part of, or my jurisdiction, right? It would be like saying, I don't know, it would be like saying the Oakland Raiders, the NFL team, the Oakland Raiders, did something wrong. So now every football team throughout the world needs to apologize. That's something that their team did that they have to answer for. It's not something that every other football team needs to apologize for, because there is no single governing body for all of football. Even the NFL could apologize, but not the other teams have to, and that doesn't include like other football leagues or teams. The CFL doesn't have to apologize. Football in Europe doesn't have to apologize. So, I guess if the lodge to which Garibaldi wanted to apologize, I guess they could. I would say, though, many organizations, Freemason, which are not Freemasons, have plenty of things to apologize for as well. So, maybe just let the past of 200 years ago be the past in terms of what Masons believed. No, we cannot arrest each other. Again, if a Mason is doing something incorrect, like if I were to discover a Mason was committing crimes of some sort, I would contact the police and advise the police of the crimes he was committing. Because one of the things we're taught within Freemasonry is to be very careful to not only obey the laws of the country ourselves, but to make sure that if we discover a brother committing a crime, that we advise the authorities, because if we don't, the entire craft goes into disrepute. Nobody controls the Freemasons, Dina. That's the point. There is no single governing body that controls Freemasonry. In Ontario, where I became a Freemason, we have a Grand Master who is responsible for Freemasonry in Ontario. And we have a constitution and bylaws which exist and are enforceable within Ontario. However, that Grand Master is responsible for Freemasonry in Ontario. He's not responsible for Freemasonry in, let's say, Texas, which has a different Grand Master, a different constitution, and a different set of rules. So there is no single governing body or organization that controls Freemasonry in a global sense. There are different jurisdictions, each of which have different leadership, and each of which has different, jurisdictions of control. I don't know what shouldn't talk about the Minister Priory outside lodge means. I joined Scottish Rite. I joined the Scottish Rite. I'm 18th degree Scottish Rite. So, 18th degree Scottish Rite, and very, proud to be part of the Scottish Rite. I keep thinking I may at some point join York Rite. We shall see. But I'm too busy at the moment. Please, if you're watching this, hit that like and subscribe button. Help me get to 3,400 subs. Dina, I suppose you have to use your common sense and your observations and your judgment. Again, I've done my research and studies. There is no Luciferianism in Freemasonry. Now, here's what I'll say. Let's even assume you were true. If you were to get rid of the consistory, if you were to get rid of the 19th degree through the 32nd, or Knights of Kadosh, in the northern jurisdiction, that would not make any difference as it relates to Freemasonry, right? Let me rephrase that because that's the wrong way to put it. I love my Masonic brothers who are members of the Consistory or the Knights of Kadosh. I love my brothers who are part of the 32nd degree, part of the 33rd degree. However, if you want to know what Freemasonry is all about, you don't look at these appendant bodies, you look at the first 3 degrees. If you were to remove the Consistory from Freemasonry, for the majority of people's Masonic careers would not be that different. However, if you remove the first 2 degrees from Freemasonry, entered apprentice, fellow craft master mason, Freemasonry would cease to exist. Those are the foundations on which Freemasonry exists. Therefore, you need to look to those degrees in terms of what actually is relevant and important and matters to Freemasonry. More so than looking at these appendant bodies. Having said that, again, I'm 18th degree. I've known a lot of consistory. I've even seen some consistory ceremonies. They had some open houses. I think they're a very, very valuable part of the Masonic craft. Dina, I also wonder about the Temple of Solomon. I did a podcast or a live stream about that. I very often question whether that existed or not. I don't know. Certainly, there seems to be very scant historical or archaeological evidence for its existence, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist, right? We don't know for sure. We got to keep an open mind sometimes. Well, Caesar, I would say every organization, whether it be religious, civic, civil, or anything in between, has done things wrong because they're made up by humans, and humans do things wrong all the time. It's our nature. We do our best, but we still mess up, and I think the Catholic Church is no different. In my humble opinion. All right, I hope everybody's doing well. It's great to have so many people watching. Couple hours in. I do hope, once again, you guys will take a moment to hit the like and subscribe button if you're new to the stream. Join me again at 1 p.m. And yeah, I think, though, we'll end this stream for now. We don't know if Hiram Abiff existed, actually, to be honest. Keep that in mind. All the people who think for sure he existed. He's probably a mythological figure, more so than a literal figure, is my suspicion. In fact, the term Hiram Abiff never actually pops up it's interesting, in the Bible, the name Hiram pops up, but not Hiram Abiff, which is an interesting little side note to keep in mind. At least I think that's an interesting side note to keep in mind. I think, again, we don't know for sure. I've heard different stories. I think my assumption is he probably existed as there probably was a figure who was a king in Jerusalem at that time, which represents King Solomon. In the same way, we don't know if King Priam existed for sure, but we know Troy existed and it had kings. But whether he was as rich or as wise, who knows? But that doesn't stop him from being very valuable in terms of metaphorical lessons that we can take with us in our life. So that would be my theory on that, for whatever it's worth. Certainly, it's very hard to find information on him in terms of archaeological evidence or source material outside of the Bible. To my knowledge, the vast majority of information on King Solomon comes from biblical sources as opposed to archaeological or other literary sources. Well, the pyramid builders were absolutely true master masons. I mean, they were true master stonemasons. they had definitely mastered the art and craft of stonemasonry to be able to build things, of that level without a doubt. So yeah, I'd agree with that 100%. Um, all right, guys, we are going to be my favorite historical figure. So yours is David. Mine would probably be Julius Caesar, I would think. All right, guys, thank you all so much for being here. I'll see you back tomorrow, or today, technically, 29th of January, 1 p.m. Eastern. Have an excellent, excellent night.